I was born and raised in Texas but got a job in the Rocky Mountain states. I was a bit late, but made it in time for the meeting at the other company's office. When I stepped outside afterwards, I was shocked. In just 2 to 3 hours, the snow had piled up far higher than my rubber boots. It was a blizzard that the snow plows couldn't keep up with that day, and after barely avoiding getting my car stuck on the way home and finally making it back to the office, something unbelievable happened. Wow, it is snowy, huh? My name is Mark Sander. I'm 30 years old. I work as an architect in this snowy town. Today I had a meeting with a client and was planning to go out afterwards. As someone from Texas, I find having snow annoying. It sucks. I don't like the cold weather, and walking on snowy roads is tough too. So why didn't I just go back to Texas? I came to this town's university, started dating a local girl, and intended to marry her, so I got a job at a major architecture firm here. But shortly after getting the job offer, she dumped me. Heartbroken, I considered turning down the offer to go back to Texas, but my parents scolded me, saying I couldn't turn down a rare chance at a major company just for that reason. Fair enough, I thought, and I've been living here over 10 years now. Still, I really don't like the snow. I layer up with the warmest thermal underwear, shirts, sweaters, and jackets for the cold. I have all items with cold protection and heat retention effects covered, but I'm still freezing. Yet the locals say this heavy snow region isn't even that cold. It seems that compared to the truly frigid places that don't get much snow, it is warmer here. To me, heavy snowfall regions are cold enough. Not wanting to go out, I put on my coat and took the elevator down 2 floors to the 3rd floor. There is a small break room where I can have some coffee. But I had another intention too. I glanced at the woman in the general affairs direction. She is cute as usual. There is Ms. Monica Hawkins ahead of my gaze. She has a cute bobbed hairstyle and thin framed glasses. Petite and adorable. I've had my eye on her since joining the company. That's because she once helped me out. It was about 6 months after I started. Though 3 years younger, she had joined a year before me since I went to university, while she joined after graduating high school. Following co-workers' directions, I went to the reference room. I was still in UB, and without reading the sign, closed the door behind me. I found materials I needed, so I tried to go back but couldn't get the door to open. I tried to move a sliding door many times and checked the lock, but I couldn't open it. I turned pale. I don't have a cell phone because I'd only come to pick up documents. Also, this reference room is located at the corner of the 3rd floor, and my co-worker is on the 5th floor, so there's hardly any foot traffic. Since it was an isolated area with no one around to hear me yell for help, but I screamed a lot. Miss Hawkins did hear my shouts and came running. When the door opened and she appeared, she looked like an angel to me. Didn't you see the sign? This door sticks sometimes. You have to lift it a bit to open. Lifting it slightly, it opened right up. The sign said caution. Leave door open when entering and explained the sticky mechanism below. I'm sorry, I missed it. But she just smiled and said, no, it's my fault for not properly disseminating information about the door. Apparently, the door had gradually become heavy over the past 6 months, but nobody took the initiative to have it fixed by general affairs, so they just left it. I keep telling them to take care of it, but they never do. She said with a displeased look. Thank you for noticing me and saving me from being trapped all day, which she took very seriously. When I say it with a shy smile, saying being locked in. It is terrifying, but I have my sharp ears, so caught your calls. With that sweet smile, she says goodbye to me. She stole my heart with that smile. No, from the moment she opened the door, I fell for her. Yet here I am, nearly 8 years later. Having never made a concrete move, I only satisfy myself by looking at her at work. I can't even call it a relationship. I'm pathetically shy around women. After my girlfriend, who I was thinking about getting married, dumped me out of the blue, I have no confidence of women and what they're thinking. I thought we were on the same page about getting married. That's why I got this job in her hometown. I thought everything was okay. But at the end she said I got bored being together with you and left me. I thought we had a good time on each date. Since then, I'm irrationally scared of women. I ended up feeling down for no reason. Outside is already cold. Even my heart is also cold. I steal another glance at Miss Hawkins, warming my heart. I disposed of my coffee cup, put my scarf on, and headed down to the first floor. It's still snowing. I'm bundling up in my coat and hood. Still freezing. I muttered pointlessly as I headed to the bus stop. I walk in my rubber boots to the bus stop. Yes, as a Texas native, wearing rubber boots for business looked weird in the beginning, but it's normal here with the rapid snowfall, and I got used to that. The meeting was a great success, with the client loving my proposed plans. Though I'm a little late, I step out of the client's company to make sure I'll still make it on time. But leaving their office just 2 to 3 hours later, I was shocked at the overwhelming snow accumulation, 4 higher than my boots. The bus was delayed but not too long a wait. However, it got stuck just short of the office, likely due to an accident or vehicle getting trapped up ahead. After waiting a while with no movement, I decided to make the rest of the way on foot. Along the way, I passed several cars trapped on the small unplowed streets. A heavy snowfall. It seems like they hadn't even caught up with clearing the snow from the small road yet. Just as I looked, a car had just started moving after finishing the snow removal. I figured I could have waited for a cleared path, but with so little time left until the clock out time, in order to get back to the office as soon as possible, I continued walking through the snow, struggling against getting my feet stuck. As a result, I finally made it back to the office a little past the clock out time. I slid into the building, finally free from the snow, and headed to the 5th floor where our office is via the elevator. The elevator started smoothly, but came to a gradual stop on the 3rd floor. The doors opened, and the person who entered was, "Oh, good work today." It was Miss Hawkins, the woman I have feelings for. "Ah, good work." Miss Hawkins greeted slightly as she entered. "Lucky. Today's my day." That's when I raised a clenched fist in my mind. Just as I thought, the elevator started moving again gently. It shook with a jolt and stopped, the area around darkening simultaneously. For a brief moment my mind went blank, but then I heard a scream, snapping me back to reality. In the dim light, I saw Miss Hawkins cowering and screaming next to me. "It's okay. Stay calm. It's just a power outage." I called out to Miss Hawkins, but she seemed to be in a panic, not registering my voice. I hesitated, but gently placed my hand on her shoulder and softly patted it. "It's okay. It's okay. Just stay calm." My voice got her to stop screaming. However, her breathing was ragged. I opened my eyes wide. She was on the verge of hyperventilating. Miss Hawkins seemed to realize it too, making her breathing even more labored. "It's all right. Stay calm. Breathe slowly. You'll be fine. My sister used to get like this a lot, so I know what to do. Just breathe slowly and deeply." I slowly counted out numbers. Distressed Miss Hawkins glanced at me and matched her deep breaths to my counting. Saying I had experience dealing with this seemed to reassure her a bit. The moment she calmed down slightly, she blurted out, "I have claustrophobia. I'm scared. Help me." Her voice trembled with fear and anxiety. I applied a bit more pressure with a hand on her shoulder. "Just stay calm and keep breathing slowly. I'm going to call for help using the emergency button, so everything will be okay." I said this as soothingly as I could, and Miss Hawkins nodded firmly once. I removed my hand from her shoulder and went to press the emergency button on the control panel. I got an immediate response and explained our predicament. The woman from building management apologized profusely. "I'm so sorry. There's a widespread power outage due to the snowstorm, and we're short-handed, so it may take some time." I raised my voice slightly. "Isn't there anything you can do?" The receptionist sounded troubled. "There's someone with claustrophobia here who's terrified." I glanced at Miss Hawkins and lowered my voice slightly. I didn't want to further alarm her by shouting urgently for help on her behalf. "She's hyperventilating. Please, get someone here ASAP." Speaking in a strained, lower voice, the woman said, "One moment please." There was a brief silence. After a while, she came back with a firm voice. "Understood. I'll have someone sent as the top priority, but it may still take some time, so please try to keep that person calm." Just her tone of voice gave me courage. "Did you hear that? They said they'll come as soon as they can." I relayed to Miss Hawkins with a slight joke. Looking much calmer now, Miss Hawkins smiled back at me, albeit with teary eyes. "Thank you. I sat down as far away from her as I could manage in the cramped elevator, leaning against the wall. In a narrow elevator, being alone with a man in the confined space was probably scary enough without me being right next to her. The silence was heavy, and I didn't know what to talk about. After a while in that charged silence, Miss Hawkins's voice broke through softly. "It's actually pretty bright in here." Caught off guard, I looked around cluelessly until she pointed upwards. "Oh, the lights. The emergency lighting, you mean?" "Yeah, I guess so." I chuckled. "As long as it's this bright, I think the tight space will be okay. Thank you again for earlier. I must have startled you with my reaction. I'm sorry for the trouble." She looked down as she spoke. I shook my head, smiling. I was surprised, but my sister used to have episodes like that when she was little, so no worries. I smiled back, and Miss Hawkins let out a little laugh. "Thank you. Is your sister okay now?" I nodded. "She's totally different up now, to the point where you'd never think she used to be like that. She was originally very sensitive and serious, hated being scolded. She had a bit of a rough time when she ended up with a strict teacher." I furrowed my brow as I explained. Miss Hawkins sighed. "For me, when I was a kid playing hide and seek, I hid in a shed and ended up getting locked in. Ever since then, I've been afraid of dark, confined spaces." She trembled slightly even now. "Ah yes, those pesky prankster kids. Back when I was in 6th grade, there were older kids, like 5th or 4th graders, who would lure younger girls into playing hide and seek at the park. When the girl hid in a shed, they'd lock her in. It was a trend for a while. Whenever I came across something like that happening, I'd chase those brats down. In fact, my sister had fallen victim to that prank too. After that, I patrolled the nearby parks, rescuing any kids I found locked in sheds and going after the pranksters. It eventually became a huge issue in the community and at school, and those kids got seriously disciplined by the teachers. The problem stopped after that, and my sister could finally play at the park in peace." Miss Hawkins gave a wry smile. "I see. So those kinds of jerks are everywhere, huh? Prankster kids are universal." I gave a bitter smile too. "When I was a kid in Texas, there was a candy store near my local park that caused issues with kids buying and eating snacks there." I trailed off, because Miss Hawkins let out a small exclamation. I'm from Texas too. There was a candy store right by my local park too." I had assumed having a candy store near a park was common anywhere, but the similar situation seemed to catch her interest. "Well, candy stores do tend to be conveniently located near parks. Where in Texas are you from?" "I'm from." When I named my hometown, Miss Hawkins's eyes flew open wide. "No way. Same place." Digging deeper, we realized we even went to the same elementary school. Mr. Sander, how old are you?" Miss Hawkins asked while checking my employee ID hanging around my neck. At a big company, she couldn't be expected to know everyone's name, but as general affairs, I had hoped maybe she knew mine. Sadly, it seemed I wasn't even on her radar. Hiding my disappointment, I answered, 30 years old. Miss Hawkins covered her mouth. 3 years older. So when I was in 3rd grade, you were a 6th grader. Were you the one who helped me? I waved my hands frantically. Oh no, I highly doubt that was me. There were other kids who went after prankster kids, too. Before I could finish, Miss Hawkins cut me off. It's fine. I froze at those words. I don't remember the face of the kid who helped me and never got to thank him. But I was locked in that pitch-black shed, terrified and screaming in despair. Then suddenly, the door flew open and light poured in. At that moment, I felt such immense relief from the bottom of my heart. So let me just say, even if it wasn't you, thank you so much. She showed me a gratitude. I stammered. Well then, you're welcome. Miss Hawkins gave a slight giggle at my flustered reaction. Then she shivered violently. Ah, that's right, you must be cold. I finally realized she must be freezing up. It had been nearly 20 minutes since the power outage, with no heat. Unlike me coming in bundled up from outside, she was just in her office attire. I hurriedly took off my coat and offered it to her. Miss Hawkins looked puzzled. Here, please use this. Ah, but you probably don't want something I was just wearing, do you? But it's all I have, except, my scarf. That's been right up against my face though, so that's probably even worse. Huh? Seeing me frantically rambling, Miss Hawkins burst out laughing. I never said anything about it being gross. Calm down. My behavior must have seemed pretty ridiculous, as she couldn't stop giggling. After composing herself a bit, she took the coat. Are you sure it's okay for me to borrow this? I vigorously nodded. All my thermal underwear, shirts, jackets, it's all warm stuff, so I'll be fine. Want me to lend you a jacket too? Still laughing, Miss Hawkins shook her head. I'm okay. But you really are from Texas then, huh? Did you live there your whole childhood? I nodded. Yay, until I came here for university. It's been 12 years now, but I've never gotten used to the cold. I sniffled as I spoke. Miss Hawkins smiled. I moved up here in middle school. Maybe I've just gotten acclimated over time. Her sweet smile made my heart flutter. Well, I'll borrow this then. As Miss Hawkins put on my coat, I inwardly cringed trying to remember when I had last washed it. Warm, she murmured, sniggling into my coat. The adorable sight made me forget my moment of panic. You keep having to help me out. I'll have to properly thank you next time, she said. I vehemently shook my head. If I really did help you back as a kid, then we're even. Miss Hawkins looked perplexed, so I explained. You helped me out right after I joined a company too, remember? She looked perplexed still. You helped me out when I got trapped in the reference room due to the door. Realization seemed to dawn on her face. Ah yes, the shoddy installation I kept complaining about, but they never fixed. I had gotten used to keeping an ear out since so many people missed the sign and got trapped. Judging by her phrasing, it seemed quite a few people had ended up locked in there over time. For Miss Hawkins, I was just one of many she had helped. But for me, you were my savior. Thank you again for that time. As I sincerely expressed my gratitude once more, Miss Hawkins became flustered. Oh no, it was nothing. Her shy demeanor was adorable, and I felt the urge to confess my feelings right then. Ever since that day, I've admired you. Ever since then, I've secretly watched you in the break room. No, blurting out those creepy sentiments while trapped alone together would only exacerbate her fears. Now that we've finally had this conversation, I should look for another chance to ask her out properly. I should have used her mention of thanking me as an excuse to invite her to a meal. As I mentally kicked myself, Miss Hawkins spoke up. Actually, I already knew who you were, Mr. Sander. I opened my eyes wide at her sheepish admission. But you checked my ID while saying my name earlier. Miss Hawkins covered her face. I knew, but thought it might seem weird, so I pretended not to. Embarrassing. Her shy gesture made me blush too. Have we interacted before? As I racked my brain, Miss Hawkins laughed. You probably don't remember. It was right after you joined. During the new hire orientation I was assisting with as a senior employee. You dropped your pencil case and swiftly picked it up, dusted it off, and handed it right to me. I honestly had no recollection. I did. Really. Miss Hawkins's face reddened further at my honest surprise. Little things like that really make an impression, you know. Most people wouldn't bother brushing off a fallen pencil case before handing it back, but you smoothly dusted it off for me. That simple, thoughtful gesture caught my eye. It was such a trivial thing that I was dumbfounded, but knowing I had been on Miss Hawkins's radar filled me with joy. Could this be a sign she's interested? We're trapped alone, but would it be okay to confess my feelings? Just as I started to say, actually, a loud noise came from outside. Are you okay in there? It seemed our rescuers had arrived. Timing. While I internally lamented the missed opportunity, Miss Hawkins let out a deep, relieved sigh. Seeing her relief, I smiled wryly. You're right. We should be relieved that help finally arrived. I tried to distract Miss Hawkins with conversation, but she was trembling the whole time. It didn't seem to be from the cold. She had said the emergency lighting helped with her claustrophobia, but she was likely struggling to keep herself under control. Getting rescued as soon as possible was the priority. After about 10 minutes of work, the elevator started moving again smoothly. Miss Hawkins and I exchanged smiles. Before the doors opened, I mustered my courage. Would you like to get a meal together sometime? Miss Hawkins's eyes widened briefly, but then she smiled. I'd love to. At that moment, the elevator doors slid open. Years later, Miss Hawkins, now my wife Monica, and I are in the middle of our wedding reception, having just finished her first dress change. We're waiting in front of the banquet hall doors to make our entrance. Admiring her breathtaking beauty in a deep crimson gown, I smile. Monica tilts her head quizzically at me. Doesn't this door remind you of that time? Realization dawns and she breaks into a grin. I was just thinking that when we entered earlier. The doors open gradually, light spilling in, reminiscent of the elevator doors opening to free us years ago. After thanking our rescuers and asked them to give our best regards to the building staff who first responded, we saw them off and exchanged contacts. Monica brought her elementary school graduation album to one dinner date. Was this the girl who you helped? She pointed to her photo. No way I'd remember. I probably just flung the shed door open and took off chasing those brats without even looking. I gave her a laugh. Monica seemed to expect that reaction, and I never got to call out to that boy. Then she stared at me and said, "But it doesn't matter who really helped me that day. I'm deciding it was you, Mr. Mark Sander. Isn't it more fateful that way? The boy who rescued me from being trapped all those years ago, rescued me, who was trapped in the elevator years later." I returned her smile. Well, if we're going that route, what about the girl I helped was the one who rescued me from the reference room? I didn't rescue you. We were trapped together in the elevator. I laughed, but Monica shook her head seriously. You did save me though. If my hyperventilating had escalated further, it could have been dangerous. You calmed me down, called for help, and kept talking to me so I wouldn't panic alone in that confined space. You saved me. Straightening her back, Monica then showed gratitude. Thank you truly for saving me that day. Please go out with me. Her surprise proposal at the end left me flustered. Huh? What? Monica burst into laughter at my stunned reaction. Too sudden. She stuck out her tongue mischievously. But I've had feelings for you since you joined the company 8 years ago. It's not really out of the blue. They've been growing steadily all this time. Her feigned bravado couldn't fully hide the slight quiver of her lips. Being confessed to by a younger woman, I was at a loss. But I admitted, I've been interested in you since you helped me out of the reference room too. I started going to the break room just to catch glimpses of you. I even acquired a taste for coffee because of it. Monica's eyes flew open. Wait, I thought you just happened to be there a lot, but you were coming to see me. She blushed furiously, hunching her shoulders, utterly adorable. I wonder how many years we were mutually pining after each other. As I laughed, Monica joined in. 8 years. 8 whole years. Realizing we had spent 8 years shyly admiring each other from afar was indeed ridiculous. But that conviction lets me say this feelings is no mistake. Monica, let's date with the intention of getting married, okay? In my heart, I've always called you Monica. Monica smiled shyly, her cheeks still flushed. And I've always thought of you as Mark. From today, Mark. Then she covered her face. Saying it out loud is embarrassing. It might take me a while to get used to. Her bashfulness was unbearably cute. And so, we entered into a gentle courtship that eventually led us here, to our wedding day. The staff signaled the doors would open soon. Without any prompting, Monica and I both closed our eyes, as if envisioning that elevator door opening once more. When we opened them, a brilliant light flooded our vision. The light of hope shining on the marriage awaiting us. Stepping in sync, we made our entrance, basking in that radiant future.